So let's actually do that. Let's start with injection. And the thing about injection, so what are we really talking about here? We're talking about someone writing an application which takes untrusted data. So we talked about that before. So data, say, from forms or from query strings, and concatenates it into a SQL string, which is then passed to the server. And specifically to the database server. And the risk here is that that piece of untrusted data can break out of the data context and into the query context. So here's what I mean by that. So you say select star from widget where ID equals. Now, if you could then, instead of passing a 5, because you want ID 5, you could say, 5 or 1 equals 1, or start to add your own conditions. And what if you then closed off the statement? You put a semicolon, and then you went, okay, and now drop table widget. Like if the account connecting to the database has the rights to drop tables, and your table gets dropped. Again, that's probably not particularly subtle.
No, certainly not.
Okay, so let's have a look at how we might do this, and we might have a look at something like category. And the thing is as well, I know that because you've built this on Entity Framework, the chances of you having a SQL injection risk are like next to nothing. Although you can still do that with Entity Framework.
Okay, because I was about to say, also that means you should just use Entity Framework and you're good.
No, in fact, I've got a blog post that shows you how to create a site with SQL injection risks in Entity Framework or stored procedures. Because you can still write your own SQL statement that you then send off to EF and it will execute for you. You can still write stored procedures that take a string and then inside the stored procedure concatenate stuff and then just exec it. So you can screw up almost anything if you try hard enough.
Really want to.
All right, so a typical SQL injection attack would be something like, in the category name, what we're going to do is, it might be category foo, and then we're sort of trying to picture the string that's being built up in the background. So what we're going to do is then we're going to close that string, close that statement, delete from foo. Delete from foo?
Delete from foo?
Yeah,
there's probably not a table that's called foo, I wouldn't have thought.
Well, see, here's the thing. So if there was a SQL injection risk and there wasn't a table that was called foo, we might get an error message back.
Saying unknown table.
So that would depend.
Or just an error,
This comes down to security misconfiguration, which we'll chat about as well. So if you, and this is ASP.NET, so if you didn't have custom errors turned on and you got the internal exception bubble up, and in fact, I'll show you an example of that after this, because I've got a special website that everyone can go and break.
Right, cool.
Which is a heap of fun. so we might save something like this and we'll just enter some rubbish here. Now I know that this is going to be good, all right? It's not going to break stuff because you've got Entity Framework. So we've just seen this saved verbatim. So inevitably that foo single quote column has been passed as a parameter to a stored, or not to a stored procedure, but to a SQL statement. So EF does this for you. So probably somewhere in EF you're just simply creating an entity and there's an attribute which is called name, and that's gone in there and it's all been parameterized.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So what tends to happen when it goes wrong is you go somewhere like hackyourselffirst.troyhunt.com. Now, you've seen some of the things that have been on this website before, and hopefully it's not going to do that now. But this,
I know what you're talking about.
anyone who wants to see this can go and watch my DDD Melbourne talk and enjoy what happens when you have a workshop where you teach people how to do SQL injection, and then you present after it and someone has SQL injected your site.
And you don't realise until 10 minutes into your presentation what's happened.
No.
It is worth a look.
Yeah, we'll leave
Definitely,
that there. However, what you can do is that if we go and view something like this, we've got a little order by clause, and we change that to something invalid, we will get an exception that bubbles up.
Yeah, right. And this is bad.
This is an internal SQL exception. Now, this is from the Pluralsight course called Hack Yourself First, which goes through all this and shows you how this happens and how to fix it. So that would be a problem. And it's a problem because I am, in this case, it is concatenating a string and then it's just throwing it at the database. So you guys are not doing that because you've got Entity Framework, which again helps you fall into the pit of success.
Not the worst place to fall.
No, so this is really good. But again, be conscious that there are risks in terms of if you do concatenate and then you just send it to your context, or if you do actually concatenate it inside a stored procedure.
Sure.
So that can be a problem as well.